how domestic violence affected me when I was young growing up. It was a difficult time for me growing up in my house because my dad had a temper, and sadly, my brother got into the criminal world. So I really faced lots of different battles growing up, and sadly, I see a lot of violence when I was young. My dad, being violent towards my mum, and I remember one time when I was growing up in the flat when I was very young, my dad pushed my mum, and I cried so much because I couldn't do anything about it. And I think that's the worst. The feeling is that on two counts that when somebody is violent towards you, you feel hurt and betrayed by that person. But when you're young, growing up, it's even more difficult because you feel helpless. And I'm recording this video now for those of you who are at home. You might know a friend that's, being a victim or is a victim currently because of coronavirus. Domestic violence has gone up. And I will admit that when I was married, I wasn't a good husband and I did have a temper. And a lot of that, not to make excuses, was to do with my childhood, because what happens when, the two most important people in your life growing up is your parents or the upbringing of the people that bring you up. And from a psychology perspective, you can adapt those behaviours. I've had a lot of counselling over the years because I suffered a lot of childhood trauma, sexual violent abuse, and that sadly that I developed epilepsy in my later life, and I've not had any seizures for about a year now, so I've been very good. But I've had a lot of counselling. But going back to the story of when I was growing up and try to put things into perspective about violence, and I say to anybody, if you're experiencing violence at the moment at home and it's really difficult with, the police force and all the other kinds of, government agencies are really pushing at the moment, is to please reach out to somebody because it really does deeply affect your mental health. In my case, what happened, that the trauma was so high, I developed epilepsy. Although it's not proven, but in most cases, from my counselling sessions and from doctors, if you have a bad childhood, different trauma, about 20 years later, sometimes those memories come back. And with my type of epilepsy that I had, non-epileptic seizures, they're very closely related to PTSD, which is what most commonly people associate soldiers, but anybody can actually experience or have the condition of PTSD. So my epilepsy is very closely related to that. And so going back to getting to domestic violence, I think the media are doing a very poor job at the moment of saying domestic violence has gone up, and it seems to be everyone who's always quick to judge and point fingers. And we have to remember in life that everybody has a story. In my case, I received really bad, not extreme, but obviously the violent and sexual abuse and the racism was all in a period. And I received, my brother assaulted me a few times, quite a lot of blows to the head. So that, I watched my brother do violence towards me, and and my dad towards my mum, and my dad towards me. There was a lot going on at home. You just constantly cry, and I know, and I feel for those people, whether it's a man or female, there's some kind of stigma that it's only males that make the assault, and it might be in terms of research or the data, but everybody matters. The way that I look at things and my beliefs as a Christian is that we sometimes can be really cruel to other people, but really there's a pain inside of us. Not making excuses, but there's a story behind why that person is causing that violence, and actions do have consequences. I lost my marriage because I developed the epilepsy. I wasn't, a particularly good husband. I had a temper. I needed help. I went and got that help. I'm more at peace now, and that's my faith has helped me. But lockdown is causing a lot of anger at home. People spending time at home. I'm reading stories yesterday on BBC News that, and this is quite common. I see a lot of this as a child. Whether it's mums or dads throwing things against the wall, so we're allowed to have anger. From what I understand, is an emotion, but when we feel like, I think a lot of cases, you're scared really, and you don't know where to channel the anger, and sadly it happens at home with your partner. And I say again, anybody that's suffering domestic abuse, please reach out to anybody. It's really important, because I'm more worried as a public citizen, and me as a person trying to tell all my stories about my childhood in a positive way to help people realize that my childhood experience was quite bad. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't know what was going on, especially with the sexual abuse, or the racist abuse. It was kind of more on the family in the area that we was living in. But when we talk about domestic violence, you can't control what someone does. If somebody loses their temper, it's not good. Obviously, there is the law, the police. But when you're at home, you feel trapped. And I know that sadly my mum is not alive today, but she experienced violence, and my dad was quite heavy tempered towards her and us as a family. And it's difficult because I remember growing up, and I love my mum to pieces. There wasn't anything I could do. I was so young, and I think it's even more hard, I suppose, on the other way, when you're that partner and you've just received an assault or something, and you love that person, despite their faults, whatever they're going through, whatever the argument was, and you feel, I wouldn't say trapped in all cases, but what do you do? And I just say to anybody, please do just reach out to somebody, because it will affect your mental health long term. There's lots of different, I'm not a doctor, but take it from somebody who's been through a hell of a lot of trauma in their life, received a lot of counselling, a very rare type of epilepsy. Scientists know that my seizures happen, they don't know why. From all my experiences, I've got through so much in my life, is to reach out and grab hold of anybody. If it's a stranger in the street, let it be a stranger in the street. Anybody, anywhere, because just even the small things can make us happy. It's very hard being a former trained teacher and trying to watch out for different abuse in the classroom. It's very, very difficult sometimes as a professional to watch out for signs of abuse, whether in a childhood setting. In adults, it's even more difficult, because we are very good, I think, as humans, trying to hide things, and especially men, where men's suicide has gone up. So I really encourage anybody to step forward. It's not always going to be with the police. You might feel frightened about that, but if it's Samaritans or an organisation, I think there's quite a few different numbers on Google, 0800 numbers. You can ring. It's to start a process, because later on in life, in my case, I developed epilepsy, and my condition is still there. I don't have fear I'm going to have a seizure. If someone broke into my room right now and put a knife to my throat, or there was violence, I probably would have a seizure. I don't do well with conflict, or anybody shouldn't, feel to make them feel threatened in their own home. We have a right to live in peace. That's the UK law. Just please do reach out to somebody. You can find me, Stephen Fahey, on LinkedIn. Touch base with me, direct message me, be confidential. I'm not a trained psychologist or anything like that, but if anything, I can offer any words of comfort, or even just watching this video right now. And those of you who this is not all one-sided, because those that lose their temper, we all have anger. And lockdown is very difficult because as humans, I don't think we're very used to being at home for so long. If traditionally we go to work, and every household is different, and we're all human, we all make mistakes. But it's important just to try the first sign of recognizing that you've got. It's not about having a temper per se. It's not letting our thoughts and the anger in our head sometimes get the better of, and just thinking before we do something. Relationships are hard. My marriage failed because of lots of different reasons. But those of you who feel like you're just angry and there's remorse after, so you regret, hitting your wife, or if your husband, lady, whatever angle or side it is. Even if you're a child watching this, or you're a teenager and you're screaming at your parents, then it's about recognizing that you as a person in life, as a citizen, it's wrong to do harm to others. It happens in life. We have murder, we have crime, but when it comes to domestic violence, it can really quickly escalate into different dangerous situations, and everybody needs help. Counselling is not for everybody, but just starting a process of opening up and telling somebody about it, whether you're the one that's causing, you feel like you're going a bit wild in the head and you're lashing out a bit more, and when you start getting bruises or you're causing harm to somebody else, it becomes in the law domain that you're breaking the law, and it's really about you being more attuned to your thoughts, I think, and being human and being humanistic and being kind. And from my own childhood experience, usually somebody that's got anger, they call it anger issues. I don't know whether that's the right word, but it certainly goes from my case. It went back down to my childhood, where my upbringing was quite distressing. Well, it was trauma. So anybody, I thought I'd just open up and share some of my thoughts and feelings about domestic violence, what I went through, some of the things, how I feel, or I think I've analysed it in terms of both sides. I don't think the media is doing a good job in portraying what domestic violence is really about. It's not always about a victim, because the person causing the harm in the first place, that's got to come from someone. Whereas the anger, and when you go to counselling, there's some fantastic counsellors out there, and I was very fortunate to have a really good counsellor each time I went. And I dare say I'll be going back to counselling, because someone like me with a lot of childhood trauma, certainly with the brain and my epilepsy, memories can come back. I used to have flashbacks. I don't have them anymore. Praise God, and thanks, to my friends, a lot of people and professionals, NHS. Any bit of comfort, if you do feel trapped and you're receiving a violence, or you're causing pain, you feel like you're losing your temper a bit more recently because of lockdown. I know there's thousands of cases out there probably. Please do reach out to somebody and just ask for help. Even the smallest or strangest person in the world can help somebody. So I think I'll call it a day on that one. This is a big topic, because domestic violence is sad. It's always going to be there, because we as humans, we're dealing in very difficult present times. A lot of you might watch this and feel it doesn't excuse the behaviour, but when you go through as much stress as we are through these pressing times, the brain can only take so much. In my experience, in my case, I developed epilepsy. Please just do reach out to somebody. Either way, if you feel like I said, you're causing pain, you're losing your temper, or you're receiving, worst case, you're receiving quite, violence. even just bullying or anything like that in the home, because it's very hard. We all don't know what goes on people's houses. It is private, but there is laws out there to try to protect people, especially when it comes to children, which is something very home and passionate to my heart, because I know that my life is just really about helping people now. I don't want anyone to experience the childhood that I did, and there were good memories, but sadly, I'm using all on a positive, I should say. I'm using the bad memories and experiences I had as a positive to help people share my story and try and encourage people just to try and work and show empathy towards each other. So thank you for watching this special short documentary. I call it a documentary. It's just really me opening up a little bit more about my childhood and trying to help give a bit more truth to the case of domestic violence, the story behind it, what happens, how people feel, maybe some of the causes, certainly in my case. Thank you for watching. Please do take care. Think about how you go about every day. As always, government guidelines. I know it's difficult at the moment. Try and stay indoors, do your daily exercise. That's really important. If anything, I say to anybody, the more you can exercise, within guidelines, that alleviates a lot of stress. So that will kind of stop the anger building up inside you. Getting out of the house as often as you can safely will help. And it is difficult, I know, but think about your health, your mental health, whether you've got a family, your children, if you're a father, if you're a wife, as a family, you do need to have your space, and it's difficult, I know, but getting out of the house, doing exercise, and working together, being kind is the way to go. Hopefully that the cases of domestic violence will drop. I love you. I care about you. I care about a lot of people in this world. All I want to do in life is help people until my last days. It is coronavirus. It's difficult, but I know that working and doing these kind of videos will, if I can help one person, if that's you sitting at home right now, and you want to pick up that phone and call someone help, or you want to connect with me on LinkedIn or wherever I am on Instagram, you can find me, Stephen Fahey, surname Fahey. So that's it from me. Take care, everybody. I love you, and just remember to stay safe, be happy, be positive, exercise, and keep this in check. Thank you very much.